morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, November 15th, 2005. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Colleagues, the time is now 10:20 a.m. and we have 7 members present, 3 shy of a quorum. We do have a couple of committees wrapping up upstairs, so we do expect a quorum momentarily. This being Tuesday, we do have our salute to the flag scheduled. We also have a couple of special presentations today. Let's begin today's meeting by recognizing Councilmember Hahn.
Flag salute. Would you all please stand and join me in saluting to our flag this morning? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now I'd like to do a presentation. Thera Bradshaw and Frank Martinez, you want to join me? Huh? With their staff.
Good to see you.
Gather round.
Thank you.
Good morning. Mr. President, colleagues, I would like to recognize our own LA City Information Technology Department this morning because our department was recently recognized by the Center for Digital Government as the winner in the Government to Citizen category for their eDemocracy LA. We are all aware of how much technology has helped this city bring government closer to the people that we all serve. And ITA has made it possible for anyone in Los Angeles to watch council meetings online, to access various agendas, reports, calendars. If it's happening in LA, you can find it on our city website. And our ITA has been recognized and they've been rewarded for all their hard work. This is a very prestigious award. Los Angeles competed against 600 other cities nationwide, and I really thought we would all want to honor them this morning because this is such an impressive award. And many times these kinds of awards that our city family receives sometimes go unnoticed. So congratulations to ITA. And we're also recognizing the city clerk's office this morning for all of the support that they've given to ITA in the implementation of all these great programs. City clerk's office. So I'd like to present this resolution first to Thera Bradshaw, who is our general manager of ITA, and ask that Thera say a few words. Congratulations to you and your wonderful department.
Thank you. Everything that ITA does, we get to do in partnership. So this is really in partnership with the city clerk's office. We really are privileged to have received this award. As the council member Hahn has presented, there were over 600 that were considered, and for us to come up on top as LA Digital City in eDemocracy is really a tribute to the council's policy leadership and the citizens wanting involvement in their LA government and our partnership with the clerk's office. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to bring up Frank Martinez to receive this resolution for the office of the city clerk. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Why don't you say a few words?
First of all, thank you very much. I'd like to recognize a couple of key individuals. Our systems director, Greg Allison, as well as Conrad Carter, our acting chief of Council Public Services Division. Again, we were using our outreach in those divisions in terms of neighborhood councils being able to impact our agendas, as well as to provide the backup documents in electronic format for all our council and committee agendas. So those are some of the projects we're doing. We continue to work with ITA and will continue to enhance our electronic outreach to the residents of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Congratulations to both ITA and the Office of the City Clerk and all of your staff for making this a city that is open to democracy at every level and really taking us into a new age where everyone has access to everything that's going on in our city. So congratulations to all of you for making that happen. Should we take a photo?
Mr. Labange.
Ms. Hahn, before you
they
leave, but gather for the photo, thank you for bringing it to our attention. And as they take the photo, which the amazing technology that could be then on the web in a matter of minutes, people could see this here. But Ms. Hahn, before you leave, and all ITA and Frank Martinez, our city clerk, Thera, thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing when you realize how many more people, and Frank, how long have you been with the city of Los Angeles? Because I know you're a veteran. 28 years. 28 years ago, this absolutely wasn't possible. 28 years ago, but a few people were engaged in this process called Los Angeles city government. Now, hundreds of thousands of people, the phone calls, I called 311 all the time, online service, the connection that people have. It's truly amazing what you're doing. I know the Los Angeles Police Department has a website, and they get, Harry, how many hits do they get, Harry? 9 million a month or something of this nature here. And you guys were able to find out that there's a certain amount, like 200,000 or LA City area computers, which is, again, an important technology to see where it's breaking down, where the calls are coming from. So I think with this great recognition, Ms. Hahn, I think I'll have to, maybe not by motion, because Frank won't have another clerk's file, but ask that we break them down to see where they're coming from and see how we could help spur other areas of the city to get them engaged in this process of democracy. Congratulations for this well-deserved award. I'm proud of each and every one of you, and the technicians who keep our computers operating. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for the presentation, and congratulations today. I'd like to now acknowledge Council President Alex Padilla for a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a very special group of individuals visiting Los Angeles today, representing a program by the American Jewish Committee that is entitled Promoting Tolerance, and it is based in Central and Eastern Europe. Now in its 12th year, this program, Promoting Tolerance, identifies emerging leaders in Central and Eastern Europe and brings them to the United States for a 12-day period in which they visit 5 cities to learn different ways, different programs, different initiatives going on throughout the United States that not only combat intolerance, but promotes public understanding via education, via collaboration, and via American life. The countries represented here today, and I won't introduce all the individuals, but I do have a certificate to present to all of them, but we certainly want to welcome them to Los Angeles and to our City Hall here, to our council chambers. Please welcome our guests from Croatia, Russia, Hungary, Lithuania, Georgia, Romania, the Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Azerbaijan, Kosovo, Moldova, Serbia, and Montenegro, Kazakhstan, and Germany. Let's give them a round of applause. I was talking to them briefly before the meeting started. In a minute, I want Jason Katz to come up and say a few words on behalf of the AJC and the program. But the 5 cities, just so you know, that they've been visiting, of course, Washington, D.C., of course, New York City, home to the United Nations, but they've also had in groups an opportunity to visit Boston, Atlanta, Chicago, but like they said, they saved the best for last, and here their visit to Los Angeles wraps up their 12-day visit to the United States. We hope they've learned a lot. We hope they come back and visit. Los Angeles, as diverse as we are, as large as we are, certainly has a lot to share in the area of diversity and tolerance. We're pleased to welcome them to the City of Angels. Jason? There you are.
I think I can speak for all of us that we're very happy to be here today. On behalf of the American Jewish Committee, our board, our members, I want to thank Councilman Alex Padilla for recognizing us today and arranging certificates for each of the members of Promoting Tolerance. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Padilla. I think we now have a quorum. Madam Clerk, if we could call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruhl, Han, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Stein, Padilla, 12 members present, and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Our meeting is now in session. Madam Clerk, those items before us.
First order of business is approval of the minutes.
Mr. Smith moves. Mr. Rosendahl seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Ms. Hahn moves. Mr. Labange seconds.
Madam President, before beginning the regular agenda, there is a request from Councilmember Hahn to continue several of the items, and they're all related to the pipeline franchises. Those are items 6, 24, 25, 26, 35, 36, and 37, and the request was to continue these matters to Friday, November 18th.
Those items will be continued to that date.
On the regular agenda, items noticed for public hearing, item number 1 is a street vacation in Council District 13.
Can we continue that
Yes.
for 2 weeks, please?
2 weeks.
And
That
the
item
new
has been
date would
continued.
be November 29th.
November 29th.
We have a meeting that day? Okay, great.
On the regular agenda, items for which public hearings have been held, items 2 through 28, items 2 through 6 are 2 through 5 are confirmations of commissioners. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
We'll hold those on the desk.
And then that would leave before council 7 through 28, with the exception of those that were already acted upon.
Okay, so those items are now before us. Colleagues, Madam Clerk, open the roll.
Excuse me,
Excuse me,
Madam
yes.
President, on items 27 and 28, those matters were held in committee this morning, and I don't know if a committee report has been submitted yet. Those were the joint ad hoc Renew LA and IGR committee.
If we could ask, see if those items are before us. I think, did item 27, we get continued for a week?
Item 27 and 28, the ad hoc Renew LA that was in committee this morning.
She's asking if we have the reports in front of us from this morning's committee.
You're the clerk, where are they? The committee voted.
Okay, they should be here shortly.
Well, you want to hold them until they walk down? There was one technical change on the AB 1090 ordinance, making it a resolution instead, so that may,
It would be good if the reports were here for council to see.
we can hold them back then until they get here.
Okay, so those items that we're holding back, Madam Clerk, 27 and 28, did you say?
Yes, and that would
Okay.
leave then before council 7 through 23.
7 through 23. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Those items have been approved. A next order of business.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 29 through 76, 10 votes are required for consideration, and 29 is a confirmation for Bureau of Street Lighting. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
We'll hold item 29 on the desk, and item number 53, I think we have a card on. So we'll call the roll on the balance of those items. Thank you. I didn't see anyone jump up, but any specials, colleagues? If none of those items have been called special, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Next order of business.
On the supplemental agenda, item 77 is a Personnel Committee report and an ordinance, and if the Personnel Committee report is adopted, the ordinance goes over for 30 days to December 16th.
And I know we have cards on item number 78 and 79. Those items will be called special. And, yes, Madam.
I'm sorry, 77 is in item notice for public hearing. Do you wish to vote on that so then the ORD can go over?
Yes. We'll take item number 77 that's before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Item's been approved.
And then the ordinance will go over to December 16th.
December 16th. Thank you. And then we had 78 and 79 are called special.
For reconsideration, special.
And then that would leave before council items 80 through 84. Public hearings have not been held.
Any items that are special, colleagues, on those items? If not, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, Mr. Rosendahl would like to have item 21 reconsidered and called special. So if you could call the roll, that's item number 21. Call the roll for reconsideration. Close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That item is now before us again and called special. Mr. Labange.
54 to 55, forthwith, please.
54 and 55 forthwith.
Madam President, do you wish to take up the commissioners at this time? Items
2 through 5, I think it is?
Yes, and items 2 and 3 are audits committee reports, and those are confirmations to the Quality and Productivity Commission.
Thank you. If we could have on item number 2 and 3 our appointments, if Ms. Kimberly Freeman and Mr. Viciano is here as well. Please come on up to the table. You can sit at the table. Thank you. Ms. Freeman was before our Audits and Government Efficiency Committee this week, I believe. Was it this week? Yes, last week. And as a wonderful addition to our Quality and Productivity Commission and has an excellent resume, so I'm pleased that she's before us today. Seeing no comments from my colleagues, that item is now before us. Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Congratulations. Look forward to working with you. Sounds like she has a cheering squad in the back there. I don't see Mr. Viciano here, but he also appeared before our committee last week. So I would ask colleagues if we could have an aye vote on that item. Madam Clerk, open the roll on item number 3, correct?
Yes, Madam President.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That item's been approved. Next item.
Next item is confirmation of Ms. Kathy Blumenfeld to the Rent Adjustment Commission, and there is a committee report recommending approval.
Yes, is Ms. Blumenfeld here today? And I'll acknowledge Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. Just wanted to say we, of course, unanimously backed Ms. Blumenfield's nomination, somebody who has great experience in social justice issues and democracy issues, most recently working at Liberty Hill to make sure that voters are informed in a nonpartisan way of all sides of an issue, but really was very impressed with our time together in committee, and you have our full support. I don't know if you want to say anything to the council, but we'll give you this opportunity to, and thank you for your service too.
Well, thank you, and I do appreciate your support, and I'm looking forward to being a fair voice and listener, and I look forward to serving.
Recommend a full approval by the council. Thank you.
I have 2 individuals who'd like to speak as well. Councilmember Zine, followed by Councilmember Rosendahl.
Good morning.
Morning.
You're from the San Fernando Valley.
I am.
Welcome.
Woodland Hills. Thank you.
We keep on asking the mayor to bring more folks from the San Fernando Valley on board commissions. You're going to be doing a good job. Since you live in the San Fernando Valley, I know you'll be doing a good job. I just want to acknowledge you. You live in my district, and welcome to the commission. It'll be exciting. It'll be interesting, sometimes frustrating, but always good for the people. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
And congratulations for coming forward with this. Really delighted you're doing this. Got a question. In my district, 58% of the people are renters. And it's a wonderful district. and location, location, location is what developers are looking at. And they have opportunities to come in, Ellis Act out the renters and bulldoze the facilities and create high-end condos. Is there anything we can do with this Rent Stabilization Act and this commission to protect my renters so that they can have affordable housing in the 11th District? Any thoughts?
I absolutely agree that we have a serious problem, not only in the 11th District, but all parts of Los Angeles with insufficient housing for the number of people who need housing, affordable, good homes that are habitable. And I see my role really at first is coming in and listening to both sides and to really trying to analyze the situation with the law, with my legal background, so that we can try to maximize the housing that we can for those people who need it, and so that it's safe and good homes.
Is there a possibility that we could give tenants more rights so that if the eviction process starts, maybe they would get more relocation monies, they would have more benefits, so that maybe a developer would think twice about evicting a group of tenants?
As you know from my work background, my background is in fair housing and habitability issues, and so that's something that I definitely would want to look at. But I've made a commitment to the City Council to really look at both sides of an issue before I can say which are those rights that can be extended and how.
The former head of the planning department, as he did an exit interview with me, said one method would be to give renters more rights. And one of the things I'd love for you to look at is how can we protect renters? It's easy enough with homeowners. We're homeowners, we know how to deal with it, but renters are sort of left in the dark in terms of their rights. Can we review those rules?
Absolutely, that is something that I would very much commit to.
Good, thank you, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. We're very excited about your appointment. The item is now before us, Madam City Clerk. Open the roll, close the rolls, tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
That item's been approved. Congratulations. Next order of business.
Next item is item number 5, and that's confirmation of Mr. Glenn Brown to the Board of Animal Services Commissioners, and a Public Safety Committee report recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, please welcome, join us at the table. Mr. LaBonge, this is Animal Services. Would you like to? I don't know if it came before your committee. Oh, I'm sorry, Public Safety. You're fine? Okay. Looks, okay. My apologies, Mr. LaBonge.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Weiss. I'm sorry I didn't have the opportunity to see this gentleman in our committee. I'm Arts and Parks, but it was in your committee. Tell us about your passion for animal services and what you would like to do as a commissioner for the city of Los Angeles.
Well, I'm an animal lover. I've always had pets, and the mission of the city is a mission that I feel committed to, and that's to save the lives of animals, and also to stamp out the cruelty to animals, especially with the dog fighting and the cockfighting, things of that nature. And also to support the city and what they're doing.
Good. Well, I just want to thank you for your service. It is a challenging time at the moment with this area because it's very important to try to have the greatest care of all pets and animals. An interesting statistic, I talked to someone who has been a pioneer in the rebirth of central Los Angeles and downtown. He owns buildings. He has 280 units in his buildings. He said 163 people have dogs, which is a plus because if you notice downtown and members, I don't know if you, Mr. Rosendahl, on your way into this grand city hall of Los Angeles, see the people walking dogs downtown. There's a transformation taking place there. I know in my district, pets are real important, but also wildlife is real important. A lot of raccoons, coyotes live in my backyard. And thank you very much, Larry Green. There's the coyote of Melrose and Highland. And I just wanted to thank you for your service on behalf of the council and wish you do well, and come back to us anytime, or Mr. Weiss's Public Safety Committee, because it's a very critical issue, and I want to make sure that we are all talking to each other to try to do the best for the care of the animals in this city and the employees who work for the city of Los Angeles, representing us, the city council, as we deal with the issues related to the welfare of animals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
You said you're an animal lover?
Yeah, well, I'm a pet owner, and I am an animal lover.
What kind of pets do you have?
I have a female Great Dane.
Oh, great. Great.
Yes.
I have 2 dogs, Rosie and Lulu, and I have a couple of cats, Black Lady and I can't think of the other one right now, but she's my oldest pet. Tell me, what's your taking on animal shelters and euthanasia? And there's some real concern about the fact that we seem to be killing a lot of dogs that are strays. Do you have any sense about how we should deal with that going forward?
Well, my observations up to this point has been that the city is moving in the proper direction. The numbers are down in terms of euthanasias. The spray and neuter are up. I think you have a personnel in the department with the staff that's supporting the management of the department. And I think if those professionals allowed to do their work with some support from the commission, I think it'll work out well. You know, and I've always been raised to, if you see a situation, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So I'm very confident that I can bring something to the solution to this situation, this temporary situation before the city, and that's why I'm here.
Appreciate that. My other cat, by the way, is Rocky. The other day, I got a package in the mail with a CD that showed, it was pretty gross, to be honest with you, saying that the way we euthanize some of the dogs is not very, you know, it's kind of strange and weird. Will you take a look at what we do and let us know the process we're doing?
Sure, I definitely would do that. I definitely would do that. And I'm also was very encouraged at the first conviction that was made by the Joint Task Force between the Animal Control, the City Attorney's Office, and the Los Angeles Police Department for cruelty to animals. And hopefully that's more of a focus that will be put on breaking up, you know, dog fights, because therein lies the real cruelty to the animal. I mean, that's a malicious cruelty, subjecting these canines to gladiator fights. And, you know, I'm just, one thing that, question I haven't had answered on what different voices I've heard. The one voice I have not heard is why isn't there outrage about these canine gladiator fights? That's a missing piece for me, and I'll look into that.
I'm very happy to hear you say that. The last question I have is I had a constituent last week who has a seeing eye dog, and she felt that there wasn't enough understanding about what the seeing eye dog's role was. I'd like us to look into that too.
Yeah, I think education is a key to everything. Yeah.
One way for the euthanasia issue is maybe we could have some more public pet adoption programs.
Right. I think the department, I was just at an adoption program this Saturday where they had a super adoption, and the city was spearheading that, and I thought that was very nice, and got a chance to see a lot of animals that, you know, if I didn't have the discipline, I would have taken them home, you know, but, you know, I think there's a great opportunity to have some companions out there, and I think not only will a pet is good for individuals, but it's also good for the mental health of the owner.
Amen. I love your attitude and your values, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Other members wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, let's open the roll on confirmation.
Thank you.
Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving the city. We'll send items 2, 3, 4, and 5 forthwith, please. This is a confirmation of commissioners. Next item.
Next item is item number 29, and that's confirmation of Mr. Ed Ebrahimian to the Bureau of Street Lighting.
As Mr. Ebrahimian comes forward, members do have a committee report recommending confirmation. Mr. Smith.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to stand here for the committee and say we recommend very highly Ed's recommendation as director of the department. He's been with the city a long time, knows the department very well. He's going to do a very good job and expressed a lot of ideas to the committee that we were very pleased to hear on how we go about doing a better job of expanding the number of lights we have in the city, as well as replacing those lights that are damaged, but also looking how we get around the 218 problems and get more of our street lighting up and running on a more timely manner. So we're very pleased with everything he had to say, and of course his years of experience in the department make him eminently qualified for the position. The committee heartily recommends his appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Labange.
Mr. Chair, Ed, congratulations to you and your family, your staff here for your climb to the top. Give us just a briefing. There's how many street lights in the city of Los Angeles, approximately, including those by water and power?
Well, good morning, council members. In the city of Los Angeles, we have 240,000 street lights.
440,000.
240,000 street lights. We are responsible for 220,000 of them, and Water and Power is responsible for 20,000 of those.
And those are the utilitarian off a power pole?
Yes, Water and Power installs the street lights on the power poles.
Right. And how many different styles of street lights?
Well, that's debatable, but between 500 to 700 different styles of streetlights in the city of Los Angeles.
Right, and more to come. I know there's new ones on Hollywood Boulevard that you just changed, and the oldest one is in my district, I believe, correct?
Yes, it is.
On Bronson Avenue, north
Yes,
of 6th. Just a little lantern, if you could believe that, Mr. Rosendahl. Just a little lantern right there. And also one time, Mr. President, they stole brass streetlights off the Hyperion Bridge, 6 of them. Too bad they didn't get juiced, but not totally juiced. They stole city property off a historic monument to try to sell those lights to someplace else. So I know they're a great part of our history. You also have a great museum for street lights at Santa Monica and Virgil. And how often can the public see that? That's in the great 13th district under Mr. Garcetti's.
Yes.
Well, how often is that open?
Pardon me?
How often could people see those streetlights? They could call your office and maybe make a report?
Oh, yes. Actually, in matter of 2 weeks, we're planning to have an open house for city employees, council members, mayor's staff, and everyone. So
Neighborhood councils?
Also, neighborhood councils are invited also.
Well, that's great. Okay, I appreciate it, Mr. President. This is a great appointment by our mayor, and I appreciate all the street lighting, what they do to make the streets light and keep those designs right. And thank you very much. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in great support of you and your incredible hard work so far. I know I have really seen how hard you've worked, particularly with our lighting of the Vincent Thomas Bridge, which was a first in the city of Los Angeles for us to undertake that kind of project. But you know that I can see that bridge at night from my home, so anything that goes wrong, you know I can see it. And we're working really hard in downtown San Pedro with a great design of historic lights that we're going to completely transform downtown San Pedro. I just wanted to make sure I hear from you your continued commitment for outreach, particularly when we are creating a lighting district, when we're mailing out ballots. In the past, I think many times people have voted no, mainly because they weren't quite sure what it was and there was not good public outreach. I know when there's a lighting district in my district that's being voted on, I actually send letters personally to everyone to try to describe what the process is and to encourage them to mail their ballots back. So could you just comment on your commitment to public outreach as we continue to light the city through some of our lighting districts?
Yes, of course, Council Member. Well, overall, the Prop 218 process, we are going to look at the entire process. Right now, the process takes anywhere between 6 months to 10 months, and as one of my goals for next year budget is to reduce it to 4 months. And as part of that process, we are going to look at the public outreach, we are going to look at the ballots, we are going to look at the notices, and we're going to more or less simplify it. I think public are confused when see a lot of writing on the ballots and the notices. So we're going to look at the whole process, Now, the process I mentioned, it takes sometimes 10 months, whether it's for one light or 20 lights. The whole process is about 10 months, and that is not acceptable. We're looking at it, we're going to reduce it maybe to 4 months, hopefully.
Well, as you know, I worked very hard to actually simplify the ballot already, so it's a lot better than it used to, but further simplification. And I think even the way we designate lighting districts, I think, is confusing to average people. You know, LD,
Yes.
7th and Mesa, for instance, when it really was about an entire downtown area. So I think we ought to look at let's not let the engineers name these lighting districts. Let's try to have very user-friendly names for our lighting districts. But
Absolutely.
I welcome that because I think that's important. I think we want to light our city, but we want to make sure that people are educated and have all the information they need before they vote on these lighting districts. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Congratulations, Mr. Ibrahimian. It's a great pleasure to have worked with you. It's an honor to have the street lighting yard in Council District 13, and want to thank you and your staff for their work on some of the street lighting projects that we've done. And I just wanted to point out as well that this will be the first general manager that we've had that's Armenian American, a first permanent. You've been acting in the city of Los Angeles' history, and I think that's an exciting side thing. You were not chosen because of that. You were chosen because of your abilities, but it also makes, I know, a lot of people proud in the Southern California Armenian American community, and all of us, even if we're not Armenian American, to know that you'll have that honor. So I'm sure you will wear it well, and you have my fullest support, and we look forward very much to continue working with you. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll on confirmation, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Forthwith, please. Next item.
Mr. President, do you wish to take up public comment at this time?
Yes, this is now general public comment for today's meeting, an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on matters within our jurisdiction but not appearing on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, if we can put up a clock, please, and call forward Don Garza, followed by Esther Lofton, Melrose Larry Green, and Valinda Joe Wright.
Hello.
Go ahead.
City Council. Today I want to just talk about some things that have cropped up in regards to AB 60, the money that's coming down for mental health. One of the issues and one of the housing things that I want to speak on, and I think is being overlooked, is the fact that there are people who have that are more than just dually diagnosed, they're triply diagnosed, which means they have some sort of physical disability that sometimes people can't be medication compliant, and so they wind up going through different sorts of housing, such as boarding care facilities, maybe being in and trying to be stabilized in a psychiatric ward. But this is one of the things that I think is being overlooked, is the fact that people with physical disabilities who want to maintain some sort of semblance of autonomy in their lives, I think that type of housing is, we need to look at putting nurses that can dispense and medications in this type of housing that's going to be built, which is called permanent supportive housing. And I think we need to shore up the housing that we already do have with those type of things, because I think that is the nexus that will be conducive to actually allowing people to maintain their housing. But when you take away any sort of income that allows people to go to the movies, or maybe even take courses in a school or something like that, they don't want to live anywhere but maybe even just on the street. So I would ask Mrs. Perry and Ed Reyes if they would look into these things, because people like me who have physical disabilities, we want to be inside, we want to be safe. We do not want to be preyed upon by those people that do a lot of preying on the weak and hurt us. So I would also want to know how do we get involved in making sure that this is not overlooked? Where do we go? What do we do to make sure our voices are heard so that way this group is not overlooked? Does anybody have any answer for that? Ms. Perry, Mr. Reyes? I'm going to ask you, where can we make sure that when this AB 60 money is coming down, that this type of housing for those of us that need protection sometimes, and a place where if we get too tired to even go to where we need to pick up our medications, we can have it there within our housing. So I would hope that you look into these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. I have Esther Lofton, Melrose Larry Green, and Belinda Joe Wright. Come forward in any order.
I don't see, I'm certainly not Esther. I'm Melrose Larry Green. Good morning. I wasn't even going to come here this morning, but thanks to Mayor Villaraigosa and Ed Reyes, the MTA is so good, I hopped on a bus and a train and got here. I was out taking my walk in Hancock Park, but I had to come down here and just vent for about 2 minutes of your precious time. Don't mind me, I'm just a voter. I'm just one of the people that got you, that votes and pays taxes. Don't mind me, I'm just a Republican. I don't know how many of you represent me. I know you do, Mr. Smythe, and Mr. Zine does, but I'm going to try to be smiling and generous. I'm very angry right now. I'm going to try to be very decent and nice. We're at war right now, boys and girls. We're at war right now. There's a war going on in Iraq where 160,000 men and women are there fighting for our safety. And I just finished a 700-page book on Iraq, written by a guy named Yosef Bodansky, The Secret History of the War in Iraq. And I'd like anybody in this horseshoe or in this city that could tell me what George Bush ever lied about, email me at melrose1@earthlink.net. I watched 60 Minutes the other night, saw a very disturbing segment about the freaks in the ELA and the ALA. I hope I got the organizations correct. The Environmental Liberation Front, ELF, and the Animal Liberation Front. I saw a doctor, an MD, I don't know what med school he went to, advocating assassination of public officials. He was in the LA Times, he was on 60 Minutes. I know this city council that honored people that want to legalize drugs the other week, you let them. I hope you'll pass a resolution condemning and outlawing any activities of any freakazoids that want to burn property and build it. I was so shocked. I was so shocked. I hope you all saw that segment on 60 Minutes. And there are some very good Democrats. Jane Harman, notice how quiet she's been the last few weeks. She works in defense with this country. Antonio Villaraigosa, many of you are great Democrats. Anyway, I promised you 2 minutes. I'm not going to give you more than 2 minutes. But remember, Republicans have rights too. And I support this president 110%. I'm going to go back to Hancock Park. See you later. I'm Melrose Larry Green. There goes my cell phone. Thank you.
Thank you. Belinda Joe Wright. She passes. Esther Lofton, going once, going twice. This concludes general public comment for today's meeting. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item is item 21, and that was called special by Councilmember Rosendahl.
Okay, before calling on Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Garcetti, did you wish to be acknowledged?
Just very briefly, I know it's not usually our custom to respond, but know that on Prop 63 there are meetings that Mr. Reyes, Ms. Perry, other offices are part of. We're trying to coordinate right now and speaking to the supervisors about making sure that that housing money that we spend and the county money that will come on Prop 63 are coordinated for permanent housing with supportive services. So we really appreciate our town crier's comments and know that we are for sure doing that and making sure that LA is ready to spend it and spend it in the right way together with housing money so that we can really leverage that. But wanted to thank you for the comments.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes, thank you, Council President. I'd like to have item 76 reconsidered if possible.
Sure. Let's open the roll on reconsideration of item 76. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that's reconsidered and called special by Mr. Reyes. Coming back to item 21, Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, the staff member's coming up. Good morning. I explained the program, what we're planning to do.
Okay. The LARX program is what we're attempting to achieve is a prescription drug card program. The report that's before you authorizes the Personnel Department to go out to an RFP for this program. The basics of a prescription drug card program are to address an issue with regards to the availability and the affordability of prescription drugs. Currently in the city of Los Angeles, with the population we have here, the young people under 18 are relatively well insured through healthy families and through employer health plans, and so they're not really an issue because prescription drugs are available to them through government plans and through insurance plans. The senior population, with the advent of Medicare Part D, will be relatively well taken care of under that program. But the gap that exists in the middle is the 18 to 60 population, of which there's approximately 1 million people who do not have prescription coverage under any health plan. So the net result of that is they have to pay retail. The objective of a prescription drug card program is through bulk purchasing power to enable them to get prescription drugs at a discount price through a network of pharmacies.
It's a great idea.
It's an absolutely a great idea that, everybody would like to buy wholesale if they can.
What's your time frame, do you think, of getting this bulk purchasing agreement together so we can have a lever with the drug companies?
The time frame, we presume will get authorized here today to develop the RFP and release the RFP. This is a brand new area for the city of Los Angeles. We've never done this. This is a complex program. The pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industries, these are complex areas, and we will be using experts here in the area to help us. So we can do this very quickly and do it wrong. That's not what we want to do. We want to take our time and develop a prescription drug card program that will actually provide value for the residents of Los Angeles. So I'm thinking at a minimum, probably 90 days or beyond to develop the RFP itself, just to get a good document that we believe will provide value for the residents. And then 60 days at a minimum for people vendors to bid back.
Well, I just want to applaud my colleagues who put this motion before us, and I made it special so that the public could understand that the city of Los Angeles is looking into bulk purchasing for its residents and dealing with these drug companies that are totally out of control. I mean, in our country, we pay more for the same drug that people in Canada or Mexico do because we really have no lever with our drug companies. Our federal government never makes them open the books and look at their profits and see what they're all about, and neither does anybody else. So this is a terrific step in the right direction to hopefully lower drug costs for our people, and we look forward to your report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Are there members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 27, that was called special, and the committee report has been submitted and distributed to the council members.
Is it item 27 or item 27 and 28?
It's been submitted on both of them.
Okay. If there's no objection, we can consider these items concurrently. Members wishing to speak? Seeing none, let's open the roll on those two items.
Could I get an explanation what this is about?
Mr. Smith.
Yes, item number 27 is a motion by Mr. Padilla and myself that says, in the consideration of the County of LA's conditional use on the Sunshine Canyon landfill, as far as the operation goes of both of the city and county side, that they do nothing to lessen the impact of the queue conditions that this council placed in 1999 on Sunshine Canyon. And we specify where we thought some of those issues were. But the basic statement, which Mr. Sutton agreed this morning, is that they do nothing to lessen any of our conditions. And that's the heart of the motion.
Is Mr. Sutton here?
No, he's not here. He was in committee this morning. The committee voted 5-0 to support that position.
But the committee was this morning?
Yes.
So I haven't seen the committee report. I just,
It should be in front of you now.
Should be in front of me, Mr. Padilla. Let me just ask a question, Mr. Smith. Here's County Sunshine Canyon. Here's City Sunshine Canyon. So basically, whatever laws govern with the cities being the, what I would say, because historically, cities have tougher regulations than counties, so the county should come up to our standard.
They should meet our standards, but if they
Right.
don't, they can do what they want on their side.
Right.
We're just saying, don't do anything that impacts those conditions on our side.
Don't lessen what
Do not
what
lessen.
we built for.
As
Thank you
well as
very
there's some
much.
issues about LEA, about who controls what side, et cetera. A lot of those issues are to be resolved later in a JPA, which has not been written by the city yet or in the county. And that's a couple years down the road.
Right.
But for now, it says do not lessen any of our conditions, do not lessen our rights as a city government.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
Other members wishing to speak? And just for the record, public hearing on these two items were held in committee this morning. If there's nothing further on these two items, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Both of those items are approved. Next items, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item 53, call special for a card from the public.
Let's consider items 53 and 79 concurrently and hear from Ms. Sylvia Hawkins on both of these items. 53 and 79.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Hawkins. I will first speak on item number 53 and then item number 79. We must say no on item number 53, no on this resolution, number 4760. $62,100 increase to Department of Water and Power Commission is out of order, as we cancel all insurance and taxes on any license, medicine, drugs, cars, business, houses, food taxes, trades. This must stand for all future indebtedness and costs in all 58 states. Our United States of America Treasury will not become broke if we cancel all these brokers, loans, taxes, insurance, collection, job position. We must all become rich and not 3% rich people among us. On number 79, we must also say no to any removing from under God or in God we trust. Offer our bills of any fashion. We cannot follow the atheist groups of people. We must change our Constitution very soon in honoring our first woman president with the $1 bill, and not having on the dollar bill, $5 bill, $10 bill, $20 bill, $50 and $100 bill, only male presidents.
Thank you, ma'am.
As
Let me
a
ask you
Jewish
to
woman
conclude.
on the dollar bill in living color.
Thank
it
you very
must be
much.
printed and written on the dollar bill that I am a Jewish woman, so that all people will not be confused of what race I am, and
Okay.
not a
This
black
concludes
woman.
public comment on these
Thank
two
you, ma'am.
items. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion from council members on items 53 and 79? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved.
Mr. President, would
Mr.
ask
Smith.
that 27, 28 go forthwith, please.
Forthwith on 27 and 28. Next items.
Item 76, call special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I rise to bring this to light in that we had the opportunity to honor Congressmember Edward Roybal a few weeks ago. And looking at his accomplishments, understanding his contribution at the municipal level, at the federal level, and understanding that today we are lacking heroes for many of our youth, that it would be a great demonstration of our support of all his great work to name the Public Works Room as the Edward Roybal Board of Public Works Room. And naming this facility in this manner, we will forever echo his accomplishments, more importantly for all future generations, at a time where we have a 50% dropout rate for the young people of Spanish surname, for young people in general, when you talk about all of his accomplishments, the barriers that he has been able to overcome, and to actually memorialize his name, his accomplishments this way would be one small gesture to celebrate his accomplishments. So with that, I just wanted to verbally express my gratitude for your support, but I just thought it was important that we pronounce and put on record one more time all that Edward Roybal, the council member and the congressman, has done for this great city and this great country. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
I want to thank Councilmember Reyes for this brilliant idea and opportunity for us to recognize one of the most wonderful people who have actually has been able to call himself an American, has been able to call himself a Mexican American, a Latino, but who did things so generically and so truthfully for this country, and he fought for the people who needed someone to fight for them for so many years. I think it's only appropriate that we keep his name alive and we keep the spirit of what he's about alive, because every time somebody walks into a building or a room or a place where it's commemorated after someone else, they ask the question, well, who was that person? And maybe there'll be a plaque outside explaining some of the accolades that they've actually achieved in their lifetime. But inevitably, somebody will be around who can say, oh, you didn't know who Congressman Roybal was? You didn't know that he did this and he did that and he did all these wonderful things? The great thing about this opportunity is that we're going to be recognizing a human being who was truly humble and someone who truly served his community and this country in the finest way possible. And we can't forget that people don't rise to the position of being able to have a place like this named after them, like the Public Works room, meeting room, just because they were Ed or Eddie when they were a little kid, or then they became Edward, and then they became Mr. Roybal, and in this case he became Councilman Roybal, and then he became Congressman Roybal. And the reason why it's fitting that we named this room after him is because it was through his life, his humble life, that he actually lived the kind of life that is commendable to him and that is worthy of him having this room named after him. I think it's only appropriate that we do so, and I hope that in the county and in the federal government and at every level of government here in Los Angeles, they find a fitting opportunity to commemorate him as well, not only here in the city, because like I said, he did not confine his responsibilities, he did not confine his heart to serve only the city. He served this city, he served this county, this community, this state, and this country as well as anybody has, and he served it for a long time, and he served it in a way that only we should be able to hopefully follow in his footsteps and be that kind of statesman. He truly was a statesman, and that statesman, Congressman Edward Roybal, deserves to have this room named after him.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cardenas. Very nice words, and Mr. Reyes, very good words and very good suggestion. And what Mr. Cardenas said too, I've read plaques all my life. I truly have. As I've motored around the city or walked around the city or rode a bicycle, you look at a plaque and it inspires you. And when you spoke of his great climb as a young man, as a graduate of Roosevelt High School, as a young council member, as a Congress member, someone's going to read that plaque and someone may be inspired to get into public service and try to achieve the level that Ed Roybal did. So, Mr. Reyes, I thank you. I also want to thank the great Jan Perry, whose suggestion for a high school named after Ed Roybal is going to be made happen when Ed Avila pushes that Board of Education over there to do the right thing and name it Ed Roybal High School, which is only fitting for someone such as Ed Roybal and all the work that he has done. So there's a good step right here, and we've got to take another step out in the community to recognize such a wonderful man who has a wonderful legacy in this city. God bless him. God bless him.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to congratulate Ed Reyes for coming up with this, I think it's been talked about, excellent, brilliant, wonderful idea. Ed Roybal, as mentioned by my colleagues, has had a tremendous impact on the city and on this country. And it's our opportunity to be able to do this at the Public Works committee and how important that is here in the city of Los Angeles to remember what he stood for. And as so many people talked about, not only did he accomplish so much, but he created a family that has been committed to this city. That I think is really, really important to those of us that have followed in his footsteps here in the City Council. And so I think that his daughter and his grandchildren and brothers and all of that, I know will appreciate the efforts that you made to recognize his many, many years of service, and look forward to us having a formal presentation with the family to know that it's recognized not only by the people he represented, but the people here in this chamber that we represent throughout the city of Los Angeles. So congratulations, it's a wonderful idea, and appreciate your quick action on this item. Thank you.
Ms. Perry.
I wanted to say thank you to Ed as well for being so thoughtful and helping us to memorialize someone who gave so much to us for so many years. And I also think it's an opportunity to teach the younger people, and I'm in the process of building a constituent services center further south in my own district, and it was my intention to design a public mural to teach younger people the history of government service in their own council district. And former Councilman Roybal will be a prominent part of that, and hopefully serve as an inspiration to future leaders. So thank you, Ed.
Councilmember Reyes. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman President Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to rise and thank Councilmember Reyes for bringing this motion forward, and to thank you publicly for asking me to sign on to the motion. It's indeed a significant one. It's all been said already, the meaning of this, but I wanted to rise and speak to the magnitude of this action. When Councilmember Reyes came to me and presented the idea, I know I had been thinking about it for days and a week since the congressman's passing. How could we honor him here in City Hall? He was known as Congressman Roybal, but it was here in City Hall that began his political career. And just as we have so fittingly honored John Ferraro by naming these council chambers to his name, what was it about City Hall that best embodied the spirit and the legacy of Congressman Roybal? We have committee rooms, we have our executive conference room, there's a rotunda, there's hallways, there's plenty of elements of City Hall that are historic and symbolic, but probably nothing more so for a council member of an impoverished area than Public Works. And we all hear about it, we all hear it from our constituents. At the end of the day, we get to deal with issues like full public funding of campaigns, to terrorism, to this and to that. But at the end of the day, it's the potholes, it's the sidewalks, it's the tree trimming, it's the street lights, it's the basic public works services and programs that mean the most to our constituents and probably do the most for building their confidence, their empowerment, their pride in our communities and in our city. And so I think it is a very fitting tribute to Congressman Roybal, to Councilmember Roybal, and to have been able to participate in the services and reflect not just on Congressman Roybal, but having lived in Cambridge at the time of Tip O'Neill's passing and having been a witness to the services that honored Tip O'Neill, the historic figure in Massachusetts politics. To me, the legacy of Ed Roybal, the contributions of Ed Roybal, and the way we commemorate Ed Roybal is no less significant. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Councilmember Garcetti.
Thank you. I think everything's been very articulately said, and I just wanted to thank you to Ed. Ed Roybal was somebody who had a huge impact on my family's life, starting with my grandfather, an immigrant from Mexico, and with my father, the first endorsement that my father got, as so many people said during those memorial services with Ed Roybal. In a room where everybody discusses the building of Los Angeles and the rebuilding of Los Angeles, I can think of no better tribute to a man who helped build Los Angeles in a physical way, but in a spiritual way for so many communities, to really made this city what it is. So thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Councilmember Reyes.
Colleagues, I just want to share with you that I did have a conversation with Congressman Royball's daughter, Congressmember Lucille Roybal Allard, and she was very touched, very much honored. But I also want to share with you, colleagues, that she continues to do what her father has done. She's been an incredible force behind the scenes with the Los Angeles River. It is her efforts that brought the first thousands to get the Army Corps of Engineers to actually begin the hydrology study. It's her work that was able to essentially get other Congress members on board. And this started happening 4 or 5 years ago. So everything we hear about today about the river began back then. And she continues to do that. And we've actually been able to look at the Army Corps as a receiving unit, if you will, for future funds. People ask, how are we going to pay for all this? Well, the bottom line is the opportunities that this has to offer with her assistance, Congressmember Lucille Roybal Allard, we will be able to leverage public funds with private to create a greater good. So Congressmember Roybal has a daughter who has carried that legacy, and I just want to stand up and speak to her contributions as we go through this. So thank you again, colleagues, for your kind words, and it's what little we can do to honor such a great man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no more council members who wish to speak, there are no public comment cards on this item. Open the roll. Tally the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that item's approved. Next item on the agenda.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 78.
Okay, item number 78. We have,
And that was called special by Councilmember Gruhl.
okay, Councilmember Gruhl.
Yes. If we could, I know we have a number of individuals here wanted to speak. If we could ask for a 10-minute public hearing.
Okay, without objection, we'll open up hearing for 10 minutes. Council President Padilla.
No objection, Mr. Chairman. I recognize a lot of the faces that we had in committee. I'll just gently remind all the folks who are here to speak on this item of how our conversation went in committee. So if we can just keep that in mind as we address the full council, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, we'll open up public comment for 10 minutes. We have at least a dozen public comment cards, so please be mindful of your colleagues out there who also would like to speak. We'll start off with Susan Lerner. And if you could line up next, Pauline Nuttall. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, thank you very much for hearing me, and thank you very much for hearing the motion. And I'd like to also commend council members Gruhl, Garcetti, Rosendahl, Cardenas for their support, and the members of the Rules Committee, Council Member Padilla and Zine for bringing this to the council. I'm the executive director of the California Clean Money Campaign, and I simply wanted to say that my organization, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, statewide organization, is ready to help in every way that we can in your fact-finding and in developing a practical and effective full public financing proposal for Los Angeles. And the various volunteers that we have here are excited about the possibility of working with you. Thank you.
Please state your name.
My name is Pauline Nuttall, and I live in West Los Angeles. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk about this morning. We are one of the leading cities of the world. As we go, so goes the world. We all know our government is constituted of, for, and by the people, and returning elections to the people is the best way to ensure that it continues to go on in the spirit that our founding fathers established. I really hope you will consider this very, very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have, it looks like Robert Fitzpatrick, and also if Jim Algier could line up, and Robin Gilbert. Will those three people please come forward if you're here?
Thank you. My name is Bob Fitzpatrick. I'm in Councilman Rosendahl's district. My comments are not directed to this body. It's just what I read in the paper and hear on TV. That campaign financing is one of the most important issues facing our democracy. This will be short. We must do what we can to stop what you might call it institutionalized political bribery. It seems to be accepted that because of the high costs of running these campaigns, candidates must accept tainted money. In other countries, we would call it bribery. There must be a limit on the amount that can be spent on political campaign, and I hope the City of Los Angeles will be an example to the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jim Alger. I live up in Northridge. Many of you people here know me as someone who constantly comes up here and talks about various issues. And being involved with the community as I am, I can tell you very often it comes into question as to what a particular council member's motivations are for going any particular way in a vote. You guys know this better than I do. That shouldn't be an issue, but it is. And it's an issue because the money that's in politics. We have to get the money out. The general perception by the public is that all politicians are bought and paid for. The day that I threw my hat in the assembly race, I was assumed to be bought and paid for by anyone who so happened to donate to my campaign. We need to stop it. Here in Los Angeles, I think is a good place to start in California. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Robin Gilbert. I live in North Hills. When I was 8 years old, I moved to the San Fernando Valley. I've been there ever since. Los Angeles, to me, is a shining example of the way cities should be. And I see clean money as a way for more people to have an opportunity to run. They don't have to know someone with money. They don't need to work for those donors. It's open for all of us. It's another way for our democracy to be brought back to the people and more different, and we'll see a lot more discussion of issues. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Joe Sedite and James Saxon. Please line up, and also Eric Tanz. Please begin.
My name is Joe Sedita. I'm president of the Board of California Clean Money, and I want to talk about a practical thing. We are very fond of saying clean money, public funding of elections, is the reform that makes other reforms possible. One of the comments I hear most often about the City Council is, and I've been here in LA for 57 years, if this is the best City Council people in my generation can remember. And I think that's an extreme compliment for you. And I think one of the good reasons, in addition to getting the money out of politics, is that taking money out of politics would release you great people to do your job. You won't have to spend time raising money. You'll be able to respond to the citizens, do the good things for the city that the City of Angels deserves to be done. So I urge you, City of Angels, let's pass this and make it an example for the rest of the nation.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is James Saxon. I'm a resident of Marina Del Rey, and thank you very much for hearing me today. It's an honor to be here. I wanted to say that clean money, I believe, would give politicians a choice to run for office without having to fundraise at all. And imagine what that would be like. Imagine what it would be like to not spend time dialing for dollars, but instead talking to constituents the whole time, deciding whether or not you want advice from lobbyists. And this is important to me because I believe that it is your time and focus on these issues and making laws, which is the most important thing. So I think that you should actually put clean money into politics, and it would be a great thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Eric?
Hello, my name is Eric Tang, and I work with the California Clean Money Campaign, and I'm also a resident of Venice and a constituent of Councilmember Rosendahl, and I want to thank you all for hearing this item. I feel that clean money is one of the most important things that we need to do here in Los Angeles and in the state and nationwide, and I commend the leadership on this issue. I firmly believe that elections should be run and based upon which candidate has the best ideas and the most community support, and not which candidate is the best fundraiser, and I think that clean money gives that, will make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Laura Padaran and John Heathcliff and Ted Williams. Please come forward, all three of you. Please begin.
Hi, I am Laura Padavan, and I am with the Santa Monica Clean Money. And I would like to note that this past weekend, many of us honored all the veterans who have fought and died for our country. We are now officially being told that we are fighting in a war to bring democracy to Iraq. Yet our elections are neither fair, free, nor democratic. When it costs so much money for people to run for office, it makes a mockery of the whole idea of representative government. I urge all of you to honor the sacrifices that were made by our veterans by bringing clean and publicly financed elections to Los Angeles.
Thank you.
My name is Ted Williams. I'm retired CEO of Bell Industries, a New York Stock Exchange company, and currently chairman of the California Clean Money Campaign. I'm a veteran of World War II, and I spent 3 years fighting fascism and defending a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And at this point, I have great fear that we're losing this goal, and that the power of special interest money is controlling the whole political system. And unless we deal with it by having publicly financed elections, I don't know any other solution to the problem. All attempts at controlling money, campaign money, have failed, and this is the only solution.
These guys are done. Thank you. John?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm on the board of the California Clean Money Campaign. My name is John Heathcliff. I live in the mighty District 1, Councilman Reyes' district. And I just wanted to add another note that this is really a historic moment. I want to applaud all of the members of the committees who have worked so hard to bring this to the full council today. And the adventure begins as the CLA starts to really look at the issues and bring them back to you. We look forward to working with you at California Clean Money Campaign on this. It's really something that we hope each of the members of the council will put input into so that we can design a system that will also be fair for all those who are currently in office, because it's very important that this is not something that disadvantages anybody in the process. And we can make this so that it really covers independent expenditures, so that it covers millionaire candidates who run for office and all those folks who really upset the balance and the fairness of the system. This is a system in which we can actually put the resources behind it in order to equalize the playing field so that even those folks can't take advantage of the current system as it's situated. So thank you.
Thank you. That closes public comment. This item was called special by Councilmember Gruhl.
Thank you very much, and thank you, colleagues, for letting us have another 10 minutes of speakers today on, I think, the public financing campaign that we have before us. And I want to thank all of you who have been at our committee meetings and here today and taking time out of your schedule to testify. Colleagues, I've talked about as well with Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Garcetti and many of you on this council about how we'd like to see changes in our financing here in the city of Los Angeles. I had the pleasure yesterday of meeting Governor Janet Napolitano from Arizona, a small group of people, and we spent probably a good good 15 to 20 minutes talking about the campaign that she ran in the state of Arizona as governor. And the fact that she only needed it's a daunting task in some ways, but 4,000 people in the state of Arizona to give her $5 to qualify. And that she said she was able to spend more of her time meeting and talking to the constituents rather than raising money. And also taking away the impression that anyone, I think as Mr. Alger spoke, even when you just begin to apply and say you're going to run for office, there is a perception that special interest control. We want to take away that perception here in the city of Los Angeles. What you have before you today, colleagues, is a clicking, a clock that is ticking. I'm having trouble speaking today. A clock that is ticking that's a 90-day review that says, let's look at the various systems that have worked across the country. Let's look at ways in which we can mirror that and make it successful and be one of the largest cities in the country to adopt this campaign finance reform here in the city of Los Angeles. I talked to Mr. Padilla about also holding a joint meeting between the Ethics Commission and the Rules Committee and having a forum for some of those candidates who have successfully run a clean money campaign in these other locations. Because the first thought from people is, one, how do you pay for it? Two, does it really work? Can you come in as a grassroots candidate and be able to win even with someone who is a wealthy candidate? And talk about the successes. And I mentioned that to Governor Napolitano yesterday and asked if she would come back and talk to us about it because she has some real life experience in the state of Arizona. So today, colleagues, what we're asking you is to give us the opportunity to review this issue, give us an opportunity to look at the options that we can put before our voters because the time has come here in the city of Los Angeles for that kind of public financing. We still need to, obviously, we all have priorities about public safety and our streets and all the other really, and transportation system, you name it, in the city of Los Angeles. But we need to restore the integrity, I believe, and the confidence in our electoral system here in the city of Los Angeles. So let's give us that 90 days to come back with a report that demonstrates how it can work here in the city and go to the voters so they can participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have several speakers on the queue. Next is Councilmember Garcetti.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Rosendahl. Okay. And then Councilmember Garcetti.
The last comment you heard from my colleague, Wendy Gruhl, was, we'll take it to the voters. That's what it's all about, is voter participation in the political process. The community that's here today, Ted Williams, you've been a leader on this for years and a constituent of mine, and I made a pledge in the campaign that clean money was something I believed in. And Bob Fitzpatrick, you were banging on doors for me as a retired guy, giving your all because you believe in the democracy. And Susan Lerner, you are a pro on this. So here's the story, folks. We don't have the answers right now around this horseshoe of how to take money out of the political process. We do know that money has caused the political process to be dysfunctional. There's no mystery in my mind that the federal government should have health care for all of its people, but we don't because the insurance companies, the drug companies have strangulated the political process. We know here around the horseshoe that around the pillars here, lobbyists and special interests come to us with projects. They have a right to come to us with projects, but we should be free of the money aspect when we make our decisions. We should do what's right for the people. Candidates running for office should have a level playing field. It should be about talent, ability, and what you're going to do for the city to make it a better place, not how much money you've raised or how rich you may be. Money has been the root of the dysfunctionalism in the political process. I'd say I don't have the answer here today because independent expenditures and First Amendment rights are something that have to also be brought into the picture. But I can tell you this, if we make an effort over 90 days and we bring in the governor of Arizona and people from Maine and people from all over America that can help us understand the issue, we will craft a piece of legislation that will take as much of this money out of political process as we can. We will be an example to the nation. We are the second largest city city in the country. It will have a ripple effect among state governments and other cities across the country. So, colleagues, this is an extremely historic moment. It is an opportunity for us to set an example with our great city that money doesn't have to call the political process, that people will call the political process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Garcetti.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Council President Padilla, and Council Member Cardenas, and all the folks who are here today in support. I want to read this. A few years ago, Will Rogers said that politics has become so expensive that it takes a lot of money even to be defeated, which is, I think, a fitting quote for where we are today in Los Angeles. And we have a number of different disparities. I don't want to cover the good ground that was already covered by folks, but we have disparities by district where it's great that we have wonderful supporters who do have money throughout the city and other districts who are willing to support us. But in a poorer district, if you think about council districts 1 and 9 and 13, which are the three poorest council districts by income, there's not a lot of people who can donate $500 inside that district. A full public financing system would allow me to get $5 checks or below, because that's the threshold usually to qualify, from folks who actually live in Council District 13, which would be a wonderful thing. It's a part of that democracy that people should be able to participate in as much as the folks from other parts of the city and other places around the country who can give to us. But I think that's one of the elements. It's not just spending less time necessarily raising money, because we will be spending as much time actually asking people in some ways to write a check, but it will be a check that anybody can write. It'll be that most basic right that we have of democracy, which is not only to vote, but to participate in democracy in between those elections and when those campaigns start. And not to just be a passive recipient, wait for mail or TV ads, but to actually participate in getting somebody over that hump and knowing that you were a part of that. We've seen throughout the last few election cycles here in Los Angeles, the participation is going down. For instance, if you look at the 2001 mayor's race, we had a 37.7% turnout. In this past one, in 2005, there was a 34% turnout. You can see the graph almost go straight down in a linear fashion over time as people get turned off by a system that they feel no longer speaks to them, no longer represents them. And we know around this horseshoe that this is a horseshoe of good people. That's something that was said around here too. But as Senator Wellstone used to say, it's good people caught in a bad system. Other people have said similar sentiments. And that system is giving a perception that doesn't necessarily match a reality, but a perception that politics is dirty, a perception that special interests have disproportionate power. And that perception gets to the heart of whether people are going to participate in Los Angeles, in California, and in the United States. We've seen in Republican states, or states that are dominated by Republicans, states that are dominated by Democrats, independents, rally around this as something that is nonpartisan. It is an issue which millions of Americans already participate in the most simplest thing when they check off $1 on their income tax, that at the presidential level we believe in as a nation, that we hold up very high. Here in the city, we can change that system. As this clock starts in 90 days, this will put something out there that will have a cost. It's not up to us to, I don't think, in good conscience, say that we're going to start spending general fund money or something else to cover this. We already do have public funds that we do take out of the general fund for matching. But what it will allow is perhaps something to be taken to the voters, where if Los Angeles follows what Albuquerque did in Albuquerque or in Arizona, we've seen that people want this. And they want it because they don't want to be disconnected from the democracy. They want to be a part of it, but they want to believe that there really is a democracy of equals, not of disproportionate participation. So thank you to everybody who's been a great part of this. We've got a lot of work to do in those 90 days, but I would ask very respectfully, and I know there's some doubters around this horseshoe about this, but I would ask everybody for their support for these 90 days for that study, and then let's look at what we have before us, and we'll see then if we have something that we can't take to the voters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Councilmember Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can have staff come forward for a few questions. Do we have staff here? Renee, come on. Wait. While she comes forward, just a couple of opening comments, colleagues. We had this item in committee just this last week, and first and foremost, I do support moving forward with this motion, which calls for this 90-day study to bring back to this council for consideration either a proposal or multiple proposals for the full public financing of our municipal campaigns. But to do so responsibly, obviously, we need to vet out some specific elements, some specific components of what such a structure would look like. So in the interest of being completely honest and direct with the public, let there not be a perception that as an outcome of today, we're going directly to the voters with a specific proposal. Today, we begin the process of studying the issue in the hopes of bringing back a proposal or proposals to choose from in the next 90 days. But I do support ultimately going to the voters for their consideration of full public financing of campaigns in Los Angeles. Just to help set the context here, we already have a partial public financing of campaigns. We know it as the Matching Funds Program here in the city of Los Angeles, and even that Matching Funds Program has evolved from campaign cycle to campaign cycle, particularly in recent years when the cost of running for mayor, running for council seems to have been going up and up and up. But a couple of questions for the staff. The first is in the area of independent expenditures. It's something that a couple of the public speakers mentioned, but from the post-campaign cycle reports from the Ethics Commission in 2001, in 2003, and I suspect in 2005, the single clear area of campaign spending that seems to be causing ire and concern is the area of independent expenditures. Is that correct or incorrect?
Council member, Renee Sau from the City Attorney's Office. I probably can't speak to that number myself. Staff from the Ethics Commission can speak to that number more directly than I. But I know from past elections that has been a number that's been rising.
Okay, and you've been sitting in committee as we've heard all these things, so let the record reflect you're not saying it's not correct. But independent expenditures, colleagues, clearly has been the topic of much debate about here. And so, Renee, let me ask you, at least in theory, the proposed full public financing of campaigns sounds good. Does it address the independent expenditure problem that we have in the city?
Well, as I understand some of the proposals for full public financing, some of the proposals try to address independent expenditure, providing additional public funds in response to independent expenditures. However, the Supreme Court has continued to recognize the rights of individuals to make independent expenditures, so we cannot prohibit them.
Okay. And I know, again, in the next 90-day period, this is one of the areas that we've asked the staff to take a serious, deep look at. But already, I don't want to kid ourselves by saying there's a way to prohibit independent expenditures. And does the same apply or does the same not apply to wealthy candidates or self-funded candidates, say a Mayor Bloomberg or a Mayor Reardon?
Up to this point, the Supreme Court has recognized the right of candidates to spend their own money. However, I note that there is a decision that's pending in the U.S. Supreme Court now that concerns Vermont's mandatory campaign spending limits, and that will be heard during this session of the court.
Okay. Another category that we're asking the staff to take a look at, would a full public financing of campaign program in Los Angeles be a volunteer program or a mandatory program for candidates?
It would have to be voluntary, so people could opt out or not opt in.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily guarantee that all candidates are running under this potential structure. Have we resolved the issues of how one would qualify for full public financing?
Again, I think that will be studied during this 90-day period. I know that other systems, other full public financing systems have utilized a system where candidates accept a number of small contributions, and that would have to be looked at here in terms of what would be appropriate.
And I think some of the documents that we've all received on this item speak to what Mr. Garcetti was saying. Do we want to establish a threshold where we need to each receive 1,000 contributions of $5 or less? Is the threshold, should it be lower, only 500 contributions? Should it be more? Should it be 2,000 contributions? Is $5 the right number? Should it be 10? Should it be $2? We don't know, and the proposals that come back in this 90-day period will at least provide some guidance as to which direction we should move in. Wanted to mention these and just a couple more to give you a sense of what the issues are that are entailed here that we need to vet out. A final one is the cost. We can only estimate as to what the costs are going to be, but initial estimates are upwards of $22, $25 million a year. So where is that money going to come from? Are we looking at a new source of funds? Are we looking at cutting elsewhere in our budget to fund this new program? And again, if it's a balance of the two, then the policy concern for the council is balancing our budget. Are we going to do a little bit less housing and put more money here? Are we going to shut libraries down for a few more hours, put more money here? Or how to resolve that cost concern? Just two more quick items. I know I'm a little bit over my time. We've asked the city attorney to look at the legality of implementing such a program, specifically the areas of the law that prohibit the use of taxpayer dollars for political campaign purposes. I know it can be overcome. It's been established in other areas. When this item comes back, that's one of the areas that we'll need to look at just to make sure that we're complying with all areas of the law. But finally, let me end with this, colleagues, because the reality is, and again, I favor this moving forward. I favor going to the voters at some point with the option of full public funding for campaigns. But the sheer statement of taking the money out of politics, I think, is off base. We're not taking the money out of politics because at the end of the day, it does cost a little bit to run for office. Whether you're publishing brochures, you're mailing to voters, you have a campaign office, there's expenses involved. What we're merely doing is shifting where that money comes from. If we want to shift away from private, individual, corporate PAC contributions that cover campaign costs and put it onto the taxpayers, that's what we're doing. We're not taking the money out of campaigns. We're shifting where the money comes from to help address, as Mr. Garcetti mentioned, this concern about perception as to the influence of the sources of money on candidates and eventual office holders. So clearly a worthwhile effort to vet this out. Look forward to your report in the next 90-day period. You got your hands full, but we're looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Councilmember Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask whoever is compiling this information as we go through this 90-day period, if they would emphasize looking at cities that have a clean money campaign, but also have a strong or stringent control on independent expenditures. I actually concur with Mr. Padilla because I believe that if your concern is about the untoward influence of special interest money and you want to have a clean money program in place to level the playing field, then you also on the companion side have to institute controls on the side of independent expenditures. Otherwise, you'll just chase special interest money out of the actual campaign into the more highly unregulated, far more difficult to track, much more subject to influence in a way that I think most of us would construe as negative, the independent expenditure category. So I would like to put on the record that I made the request that in compiling this information, that it is also brought back to us those cities that have strong programs to regulate and control independent expenditures.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, and thanks, Mr. Padilla and Ms. Berry, for those comments. I think Mr. Rosendahl probably experienced, I don't know, Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but more independent expenditures than anybody has for a council race. or on both for and against. And that's exactly right, Mr. Padilla. I mean, it has to, and I think we are all motivated to do something that actually has to, in these 90 days, also address independent expenditures, which cost more. The way Vermont works, just to let you know, is if somebody comes in with an independent expenditure of an additional $100,000, you get an additional $100,000 to counter that. So it should disincentivize somebody who, it's a waste of their money, essentially. They come in, and if they do that, then it's a disincentive for them to be able to do that. And it's actually, it reduced some of the impact that's had. Similarly, we can look at that in Arizona, whether we would go, of course there are people who can spend more, and there has to be a cap, but that exists, let me be really clear, colleagues, that exists today. I mean, it's kind of like saying that there's homelessness, and here's how we can solve some of homelessness. Well, why should we solve any of it? Because you're not going to solve all of it. Right now, today, people can do that. That is a Supreme Court right, unless the case is decided differently. People can do that today. Similarly with rich individuals, that's a First Amendment right. They can do that today. Taxpayer money, that question's an important one, but we do spend taxpayer money today, matching funds. We do that as well with a dollar checkoff on presidential as well. In terms of, looking at for the volunteer, it has to be volunteer. That's also a right that people have, just as matching funds is a right today. But the experience in Arizona, I don't know if you can tell us the exact percentages, Susan, but in Arizona the last time around, how many people participated, what percentage participated in their system?
A majority of both Republican and Democratic candidates ran with public financing, and at this point, approximately 50% of the legislature in Arizona is elected with public financing. 10 out of 11 statewide offices are filled by candidates who accepted public financing, and 80% of Maine's legislature is comprised of individuals who ran with public financing.
So I know there's a lot of fear and some hesitation about this. I would just say keep an open mind. I think a lot of those questions have already been answered by what we do with both the volunteer, using taxpayer money, by what we already have in place. We already have a system right now where rich individuals and independent expenditures can spend. So nobody's claiming that this solves 100%, but it certainly is an improvement on the system, and experiences shows it disincentivizes independent expenditures if we're willing to go that route.
Have now in the queue Mr. Cardenas for first time, Mr. Weiss for first time, and Mr. Rosendahl for second time.
In these 90 days, it's been made clear that you're going to basically leave no stone unturned, where there's opportunity for knowledge, opportunity for experience, opportunity for us to learn how they've been getting better at cleaner money campaign venues around the country. Are you going to be looking at the recent election where the current mayor apparently got reelected and spent close to $70 million of his own money? Say I'm wrong, say it's $60 million. It's upwards of $60 million. And then the other person in that runoff spent about $6 million. Excuse me, the second person who spent money spent about $6 million or so on television. Are you going to look at that and do analysis on that, or looking at analysis that will have been done over the next 90 days on that one?
Councilmember Cardenas, the Ethics Commission is preparing a report of the 2005 elections, and they're still working on it, but I believe that they're anticipating having that report finished within the next month, so that will be part of the staff's analysis.
I think Mr. Cardenas was referring to the recent elections in New York, not our own elections.
No, New York. Nobody around here spent that much, at least not in the city. Maybe in the state stuff, but not in the city.
I can't really speak on behalf of the Ethics Commission in CLA, but I'm sure that they will look, they will look into it.
Well, then I'd like to add, I would like to add that report include that particular election, because it's at the root of what we're trying to get at. How do we make it a fair playing field? And that's the whole point. And one thing that people need to understand is when you're running for office, the line of what people can say about you, there is no line really, other than them accusing you of a specific law that you may have broken. When somebody does that, then you can hold them liable. But they can say generically, this person's a crook. They can say this person's a liar. They can say this person is a bad person. They can say all kinds of rhetorical things. As long as they don't say that so-and-so broke into a house on 53rd Street on November 11th, 2005, as long as they're not that specific, they can say anything. And the reason why I'm giving that as an example is because when you put yourself up for public office, no matter who you are, you should have the right and ability to defend your good name. You should have the right to defend your good name. One of the problems is when you got a person like Bloomberg, if it was a positive campaign or negative campaign, I have no idea. But say he spent $35 million saying bad things about the other guy or gal, and then the other person gets public funding of $3, $4, $5 million, it's really not a fair playing field. And too many people, voters or not, could walk away thinking that this other person is a really bad person, although that person honestly didn't have a fair opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, that's not what I'm about, that's not what this election's about, etc., and be able to clear the air. So that's one of the things that hopefully this 90 days will actually help us arrive at. How do we make it, as people have been saying, clean money, but at the same time, I want to hear how do we keep it a fair playing field in respecting and understanding that the Constitution of the United States and the courts are going to have something to say about whatever it is that we put together and put to the voters about having clean campaigns, or at least perception and otherwise, in the city of Los Angeles. Another thing I'd like to point out, Mr. Garcetti, Councilmember Garcetti, just said that he gave an example in another venue where someone spent $100,000 or so on an independent expenditure, and then so one of the candidates was given another $100,000 to combat that. Okay, to make it a fair playing field. One thing that we have to understand is I'm not sure the people of Los Angeles or people in this country are ready to leave an open checkbook on how much matching public funds there can be, because around here, just in recent elections, in this city, municipal elections, we've seen independent expenditures of upwards of $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, just to help one person get their message out or help one person get elected, be it positive or negative. My point is, I hope that in this analysis over the next 90 days, we have some real figures of, being that there are 15 council members, being that there are 4 million constituents, being that there are millions of voters registered in the city of Los Angeles, what kind of playing field it really is, and what kind of financing, what kind of dollars may have to be adhered to in this particular municipal election environment, and what kind of numbers we might be looking at if in fact we were to shift to a publicly financed arena. Thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was not going to speak on this, but my friend Mr. Garcetti said something that I really do want to respond to, which is, you made a comment in response to Ms. Perry and in response to Mr. Padilla that where you said, Mr. Garcetti, that you detected some fear and hesitation on the part of those who've raised questions about this today. And with all due respect, it's neither fear nor hesitation that I heard from Mr. Padilla or Ms. Perry or now from Mr. Cardenas. That's not what it is. They expressed concerns that if something like this were passed, it may open the floodgates for special interests who have big money, who have demonstrated in the past the willingness and ability to write six-figure checks to engage in local races, that they would then do that even more so and have more of an opportunity to impact races. That's what they said. And that's not fear or hesitation. That's public policy concern. And the response that you offered to that was, well, in Vermont and these other small places, the government just writes big checks to counter that. I don't think the people of the city of LA are ultimately going to want that to happen. So I do think that as we go forward in this debate, I think everyone's going to vote for this today, that we need to, I think it is good for this body to sort of bring the level of rhetoric and debate about this down just a half a notch, because that's the only way we're ever going to find a way to come up with something we all agree with. And so I didn't want to push my button, but and I know you didn't mean it that way, Mr. Garcetti, but that was how it came across. And I really do think we need to just bring the rhetoric on this down. This is not a black and white issue. This is not a right or wrong issue, and we need to remember that.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Well, what I'm finding enjoyable, frankly, is a public policy discussion around the horseshoe on the most significant issue in terms of credibility of the political process. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that the public thinks politicians are bought and sold. When I was a candidate, I had doors slammed in my face by people thinking somebody had bought me, owned me, controlled me. And in my particular district, the issue is always about developers. Whose pocket are you in or not in? And all of that nasty negativity. If we could only do something to clean up the perception, we will have gone a long way. One idea I want to see happen out of this Clean Money campaign is how we can use our cable systems. When I was the cable guy, I did like 200 election specials every year. Everything on the ballot, free, easy, everybody there. Now we're going into the renewals of the franchises, and they're doing swaps and all this other stuff. And AOL Time Warner is going to run the big scene in the city of Los Angeles. We should make it part of the franchise agreement that all candidates get free time, level playing field, exposure. There should be debates, and it should be like in Europe. You know what Europe does? About 2 months before an election, they clear the whole airwaves, and everybody gets a chance to be on television, in the newspapers, on the radio, but not our broadcasters who have a license to steal the way it is now out of Washington. Our broadcasters also need to get in the picture, but we on the city level can make it part of our discussion process is how the cable companies can be part of the solution. I don't think the taxpayers have to pick up the whole tab. I think the cable companies can play a role. I think we can encourage the broadcasters and the radio stations also to do their fair share. But the good news is the next 90 days, let's put our best foot forward. Let's step out and see if we can really make a difference and clean up our political process, at least in the city of Los Angeles. I urge everybody to vote for this.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Rosenthal, no one ever slammed a door on my face when I walked, and I got bit by a dog once, but no one ever slammed a door on my face. And I remember one time walking up Outpost, which is a canyon street, from the bottom, flipped a corner. I was walking with off-duty officer Jimmy Tatro, and he got the low side of the street. I had the high side of the street. I walked up this one driveway all the way to the top. Woman opened the window and said, "I'm not voting for you." You know, she said, "I'm not voting for you." I said, "Okay." I kept walking, got to the top, met a woman who just had her afternoon dinner, and she had just mailed in a ballot for me and said, "I'm voting for you." And so it all made up when I got to the top of Mulholland. Members, I am, and I don't like to say this, I am the first person in the history of the city to ever receive matching funds for an election. This was in the election cycle in 1992. Okay, for 1993. At that time, and the thing that bothered me when I did lose is the process, Madam City Attorney. See, this is where ethics, and I don't see ethics here, and I wish ethics was here, because ethics should be here, but the person I ran against also was using matching funds, and she said I didn't support rent control or I supported some other issue. You know, I don't want to get totally personal about it. But what bothered me is afterwards, after going through the whole thing, and all things work for a reason, another day comes, the door closes, another one opens. But afterwards, in analyzing it and asking the Ethics Commission, all they were concerned about is money, not about the ethics of how the campaign was run. Ethics is a different word. I don't like the idea about clean money. All my money is registered with the City of Los Angeles, and anyone go to the website and look at it. And people who donate to me help me get a message out. So I just don't like the term clean money, because that's not how I see it. I work very hard for the people of Los Angeles and hope to work every day hard. I don't like the fact that other people and state representatives could raise thousands of dollars. And I don't know, Madam City Attorney, you know what the limit is for state representatives?
I actually don't, Council Member.
Does anyone know? Anybody have an idea?
$3,300.
$3,300. Thank you, Mr. Padilla. You're a student of history. Anybody know the limit for federal at all? $2,000. You know, I would certainly like to see consistency with all elected officials on that. But also a way to try to solve that issue I was talking about before I would try to jump into this, Mr. Garcetti and Mr. Rosendahl, I'd like to see our Ethics Commission say, all right, all these candidates, and those 2 rows are going to run for the office of the 17th Council District of the City of Los Angeles. But we're going to ask them a series of questions that we get from the neighborhood councils on what are the important issues. Where do you stand on the issue of rent control? Where do you stand on the development of a neighborhood school combination park program? Where do you stand on housing issues? And have each candidate address those. And that first public document that comes out is funded, and it says this is how they all stand. So the other ones can't lie about you when they put their mail out and use public funds to put their mail out. You know, they can't lie about you. So I think that's real important to look at. That's why I want ethics here. You said 90 days that we have this discussion. I think it's important to do that. I also was Mr. City Attorney, a colleague of yours, and I don't know what area of the City Attorney's Office, was a good resident of Los Angeles. He was at a meeting, and he was starting to question me once out on Wilshire Boulevard about if someone had donated to me. I did not know who donated to me. I don't know everybody who donates to me, but I directed them to the website so they could look at that. So they can look at that, and it's public information. And I also, members, if we want to talk about something more important, if you take ethics out of the 23rd floor of City Hall and put them down on the 3rd floor or 2nd floor of City Hall, and you put a computer outside this room, so if anybody comes in and they want to punch in, they can find out all the information they want. Information is knowledge is power. I believe in the concept here. I ran on it, and I didn't like the fact that it wasn't ethical, it was about money. You know, ethics is how you treat your opponent, how you treat your city, how you work every day. So I look forward to this 90 days, and I hope there's opportunities to come to committee and discuss these issues. And also, I hope we look at the same thing, too, that you get the great reception in the state government. When you go to state government in a committee room, do you get the same reception and their support in state government for what you're advocating? You have a bill, but just we should do it together, because I think it's very important to do that.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Mr. Garcetti.
This will be the last thing, and I wanted to, as I said before, and I apologize, Jack, if anybody heard me as coming up to them, it was a throwaway comment that there's fear in general out there about change and about newness on this, but I do apologize if anybody thought that they were singled out about that. And part of the reason I'm answering some of these questions is we don't necessarily have staff that's tasked with doing this, and just as you get excited by Homeland Security, Mr. Smith, about landfills, you know, down the line, this is something that I find exciting because it also does cut for me to the heart of part of the reason that I'm here, and I respect that there's many questions that I too need to see answered, which is part of the 90 days, whether we do this just for the council, which is really the entry level of politics, whether we do it what would cost more expensive at the mayoral or citywide level. There's a number of different things. One thing that you brought up, though, is I haven't heard anybody argue before, and I didn't hear it before either from Ms. Perry or Mr. Padilla, that this would trigger more independent expenditures, and I'm not sure what the logic behind more independent expenditures being triggered by this. I have heard people saying, oh, you're not going to be able to really stop independent expenditures, which is legally correct. It's whether or not we can disincentivize them. And, you know, Arizona is a pretty big state. It does cost money, and that's why it's not, I don't think, our decision to make. I think it's a decision for the people to vote up or down. In a much more conservative state like Arizona, when they voted to tax themselves to do it, to me that was a very powerful message about that this crossed over. When Valley Vote took this up right after secession as the first issue that they got behind and actually endorsed, to me that was very powerful as well. And nobody is proposing that this be unlimited money. We can't afford to do it. The people of Los Angeles can't afford to do it. But there is an improvement. If we ever had a Bloomberg situation here, as federal law is now, no city, no system can stop that. But there are other times when we've had Mayor Reardon, when he funded himself, or Steve Soboroff, at that level, when people could be disincentivized if they knew that there would be matching of that, those funds as well. And lastly, I just want to say, I think this is very consistent with the system that we all live with. And I assume that people, though it has a lot of warts, embrace that system right now. That we have a system that has public money already in it with matching. That we have a system that tries to disincentivize independent expenditures by triggers happening and allowing our ceilings to go up and over. And lastly, those questions that Mr. LeBon, you were talking about, that's great. Channel 3536 engages in trying to make each one of us answer those questions right now. And I think we have a great opportunity. The thing that's driving the costs up, at least for the top level candidates, is the cost of television time. And at least with our cable refranchising agreements, we have a lot of leverage there to help take down that cost and give people who do qualify, who show themselves not to just be any candidate, but some threshold that's a genuine threshold, as we do with public financing right now, matching funds, to be able to do that for a cheaper price. So again, I apologize if anybody took that personally. It's very exciting, I think, and those questions deserve that answer, just as the people of Los Angeles deserve that vote. Thank you.
I have Mr. Labange, Ms. Perry, and Mr. Cardenas seat for a second time.
Am I okay now? All right. How does this affect office holder account?
Presumably it wouldn't, but presumably it wouldn't.
Okay. And
But
excuse me,
however-
Mr. Rosendahl? You'd like it to affect office holder account? You know, at the same time, too, I know there's a story in the paper recently about fundraising for charitable organizations, and a lot of the office holder accounts are used to help charitable organizations. So I don't know how you do that. I know our city has been excellent in the leadership in raising money for March of Dimes and other programs that we've had, the AIDS Walk, all our departments. I know the building department championed that cause a couple years ago, street services. So I'd like to know how it affects office holder account. And then also, two members, if you do that, Mr. Garcetti, because you're the maker of the motion, would you see an increase in the GCP funds that would be accommodating to an office holder? So then we wouldn't have to raise money for community events, so that we could just have a larger contribution of GCP, so the council person could make a decision that would affect that. If you could remember to look at that, and if the city attorney could look at that. And what form are we going in the next 90 days? How are we doing this? CLA is going to do this, Mr. Miller. I hate to bother you, Jerry, but catch you away there. Just give a rundown here.
Well, we've got staff furiously taking notes on the issues you brought up today. In the next 90 days, we'll be working with City Attorney. Tricia Carey on my staff is going to be the point person, and we'll be working with her to address all of these issues, the policy issues that you want to accomplish, what can be accomplished, what can't legally, issues of independent campaign expenditures, and what other jurisdictions have done relative to matching funds to try to offset that.
Is this, I just had a question, if I could, is it improper if I ask you as the maker of the motion? Is the goal here to have more people run for office? Is the goal here to have clarification or information distributed to those who are running for office, where their finances have come from? Because I also would like us to review what brought us to the ethics reform of 1988, I believe it was. Is 1988 right, Jerry?
I believe it started in 88. I think it was adopted in around 90. Yeah.
90, whatever it was, that brought us about that. Mr. Garcetti, could you just give me a little guidance on is it to get more people involved, or is it to...
I think there's a few different things. One is to bring back public trust, but we don't want to just have a symbolic thing. It's also to level the playing field so that folks who have a lot more maybe grassroots support, but not necessarily friends who can write a $500 check would be able to. It's to spend somewhat less time raising money and more time campaigning. There's going to be an element of this that is technically probably fundraising, getting a $5 or less check. So you still have to ask people, but also spending more time in your own district. In certain districts where folks don't have the money to write $500 checks, you could actually go into living rooms full of people to qualify when you're trying to get to that level, let's say it's $500, and actually have more dialogue directly. So I think all of those are intentional.
Yeah, I wish the ethics, how you run for office is you in the morning contact, first of all, you decide to run for office, and then you contact anyone you have on a list to try to ask to raise money. In the afternoons, you walk and knock on doors. In the evenings, you may participate in community forums. I mean, that's the method that works, and the only way you get it is if the people believe in who you are and what you're saying. So I just want to be clear what we're trying to do. I'd just like us, Mr. CLA, to review what brought about 1988 and what we could enhance it, because maybe it is time to look at the whole process, and I welcome that, of public financing. But the main thing is I would want to get across is that whoever the candidates are, that there be one official publication, like a voter guide that our city clerk does, that says these are the issues defined by the neighborhood councils, or whatever you want to say, and these are the candidates' positions on it. So you don't have that. That's the mistrust. Okay. I don't feel mistrust out there, Eric, when I'm in the community. A guy stopped me the other day and had a red light and rolled down the window and said, "Hey, good job, Tom." And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. So that's where you get it. And I welcome anyone to be involved in our great process. And I welcome this study, but I want to make sure we look at those points. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller and Madam City Attorney.
Before calling on Ms. Perry, let me just ask the staff in response to some items that Mr. Labange has brought up, I guess now to incorporate into the report, candidate statements that we do include on the sample ballot that is mailed out not only for voters on Election Day, but some of the stuff is already there in different forms. We do have an opportunity for candidates to air their views on Channel 35. And so again, those components or summary of the existing programs should be incorporated into the report as well. Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to ask the city attorney or Mr. Miller if they could just answer this quick question for me. What is the governmental entity that regulates or reviews filings on behalf of independent expenditures? Is it ethics or is it the FPPC?
Both, actually.
So both, but in the case of direct contributions to one's campaign, it would just be the Ethics Commission.
They have the primary responsibility, but the FPPC still has jurisdiction as well.
But does FPPC have primary responsibility over reviewing reports filed on independent expenditures? It's a dual responsibility. But it's not a primary responsibility?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, well, one of the reasons I raised the issue about IEs and the fact that that's kind of the wild west of politics because it's so highly unregulated and monitored in a very uneven manner is because I've witnessed it myself in some of the campaigns that I've worked on. I've been working on campaigns since I came to California in 1974, and I tend to see opportunities for abuse in districts such as mine or in South Los Angeles. We're not talking about high money rollers, but people who may come to the table with the backing of a particular group or body of special interest who can basically finance their campaign so that they exhibit, or a candidate may exhibit behavior which shows that they're not raising primary money in their primary campaign, but yet relying on special interest money in an IE. By the time the regulatory body might catch up with them, they basically run their campaign office or campaign out of an IE, which is not supposed to be the case. It's against the rules. But the FPPC, I think, even recently reported that I think they're understaffed. They have an enormous backlog, and they don't have enough funding to even catch up. So a lot of these cases basically hang out there in the ether without any pursuit by any sort of regulatory body. And that is my concern. That is part of my concern, that it's difficult to regulate them. And personally, I'd like to see them go away. But I know that we can't deny people the right to do that. But for me, and in districts and areas such as mine, where the voter base is often not empowered, this is the area where I've witnessed the most abuse.
Okay.
And I would ask that you focus on that in doing your research.
Okay, great discussion. Anybody else wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, I think we've given the staff a tremendous amount of feedback. Let's open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay. Looking forward to the report. Madam Clerk, can we send item 53 forthwith, please? And next item.
Council has motions for posting and referral,
Motion shall be posted and referred.
and that clears the desk.
Okay, colleagues, it's the end of our agenda today. Do we have any announcements? Any announcements? If not, then please rise for adjourning motions. Actually, before we get to adjourning tributes for today's meeting, colleagues, we do have an announcement for tomorrow. Tomorrow's council meeting is a special meeting, will not be held here at 10 a.m., will actually be in the Valley at Van Nuys City Hall at 6 p.m., I believe, 6:30 p.m. Tomorrow's council meeting will be in the evening at 6:30 p.m. in our Van Nuys City Hall. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Members adjourning tributes.
Yeah, he asked already, I think.
Another announcement, Mr. Labange?
I'm sorry. Ms. Perry, I want to salute you for the great work you did on Saturday evening. Ms. Gruhl and I were there at 2nd and Main at St. Viviana's, now called Viviana's Place. The efforts that you made to help restore that building and turn it into a cultural arts center, the salute that the Los Angeles Conservancy deserved and received for that effort. I just wanted to thank you for allowing that. It's a special place because that's where Bridget and I got married, and it was fun to be back there again and see the beautiful work that Tom Gilmore and Associates has done. But your leadership, Ms. Perry, brought us all there, as well as I know Mr. Gil Cedillo was there along with our mayor. It was a very nice evening.
Other announcements? Final announcements? Adjourning motions? Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, you might remember last year, with the help of John Wickham from our CLA's office, we brought Ed Peterson here, who was the, at the time, 99-year-old lifelong lover of plants and started the seed department at the Theodore Payne Foundation, an organization which is dedicated to the understanding and preservation of California native flora that I think many of us are familiar with. Mr. Wickham told me, unfortunately, but when somebody dies at 100 years old, it's a fortunate life, that Mr. Peterson passed away. He had been participating in the Sierra Club here in Los Angeles since the 1930s, officially becoming a member in 1941. As mentioned, he was a lifelong lover of plants, and in the 60s started to preserve many of the native seeds that we have here in Southern California. And he'd go out in the wild for many years by himself and collect these seeds of native wildflowers and shrubs, which he then would clean and sell. His last seed collecting outing was in August of 2003 at the age of 98, where as usual he slept on the ground in the open air. Though now he concedes then he conceded a foam pad and down sleeping bag, describing tents as nuisances. He was born in Los Angeles, raised in the Hollywood area, majored in botany at UCLA, worked his whole career as a landscape gardener for Los Angeles City College, so really a local hero, developed a love of the mountains as a child and a visit to Idlewild. And fittingly enough, his family has said that there will be no services held, but his ashes will be spread in the local mountains where he and his brothers camped and learned and developed an appreciation for our wild areas and our wild flowers. God bless you, Mr. Peterson. Thank you, Mr. Wickham, for letting us know of his passing, and we were honored to know you. And thank you for all you did to preserve Southern California and our beauty.
I think all members on that, for a man to live 100 would be so special.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's great sadness that I ask that we adjourn today in memory of Angela Christine Wheeler. Angela was president of the Sunland Tujunga Chamber of Commerce in 2002. She was also a board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce since 1998. She was only 47 years old. I just saw her about a month ago at our fair on Commerce Avenue, and she was just as usual happy, and we hugged, and her family was all there, and this is really just a tragedy. It was a sudden death at home, and still not even sure exactly what the cause of that was, but she was just an incredible woman and has unfortunately left so many people behind here. She was with the Bank of America for 29 years, holding the most recent positions of assistant manager and manager of the Sunland Tujunga branch of Bank of America. Just a wonderful advocate and friend to so many people. She's survived by her husband, Scott Thomas Wheeler, her son, Christian Lewis Wheeler, her daughters, Nicole Virginia Wheeler and Sarah Elizabeth Wheeler. Also her mother, Jenny Sturmer, her father, Angelo Insalico, stepfather, Marvin Sturmer, stepmother Julia Insalico, her brother Joey, and her sister Gina. So ask that we adjourn in her memory, and condolences to her entire family and the entire Sunland Tonga community. Thank you.
Other tributes? Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to adjourn in memory of Bernard N. Tommy Thompson, who was 86 years old. He was one of the last of the Buffalo Soldiers and served as a chauffeur for several secretaries of agriculture, and he passed away November the 7th at a hospital in Washington, D.C. He was born November 12th, 1918 in Crozet, Virginia, near Charlottesville. He was a descendant of Sally Hemings, a slave who was said to have borne several children of Thomas Jefferson. In 1938, he was assigned to the F Troop of the 10th Cavalry Regiment, one of the all-black Buffalo Soldier regiments. The Buffalo Soldier regiments were merged into the Integrated Army in 1951. He was based in Fort Myer in Virginia, where cavalrymen trained in nearby woods and open fields that in a few years would be cleared for the construction of the Pentagon. In 1941, he was dispatched to the 374th Engineer Battalion to help guard the White House. A few years later, he returned to the cavalry and remained a Buffalo Soldier until 1948, when he was thrown from a horse and injured. He then went to work as a civilian clerk typist for the Defense Department, and in 1961, he joined the Department of Agriculture and acted as a chauffeur for Secretary Orville Friedman. He retired from government service in 1978 and founded Tommy's Limousine Service. Regular clients included then Governor Bill Clinton, former Labor Secretary Alexis Herman, and the late Commerce Secretary Ron Brown. Besides his wife, Mr. Thompson is survived by three children, many grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I'd also like to adjourn in memory of Cheryl Renee Harper, who was born September 4th, 1956 in Newburgh, Germany, to Ivory Leon and Betty J. Harper. She received her education in Los Angeles, where she attended Roosevelt Elementary, Dominguez, and Morningside High Schools, and Cal State University, Los Angeles. After high school, she entered the United States Navy and received an honorable discharge in 1981. She became a member of the Inglewood Police Department until 1984, where she joined LAPD as a police service representative. Her last assignment was in the Southeast Division. In her free time, she enjoyed horseback riding, mentoring kids, and walking for exercise. In 2003, she was awarded a medal for completing the Los Angeles Marathon. She was a wonderful person, a loving mother, and a hardworking person who cared about her family and her community, and I know that firsthand because she worked on my campaign when I ran the first time. She will be missed by many, and I would like to join in mourning her loss. And leaving to cherish her memory are her mother, Betty, father Leon, son Brandon, grandson Micah, longtime friend Sam, four brothers Trevon, Devon, Victor, and Brandy. And my last adjourning motion is in memory of David Westheimer, who passed away Tuesday, November the 8th, from heart failure. He was 88 years old and born in Houston, Texas. He received a Bachelor of Arts degree from Rice University in 1937, began his writing career at the Houston Post in 1939 as an assistant editor in the amusement department. He would later return to the paper as a columnist in the 1980s. His first novel, Summer on the Water, was published in 1948, and during the span of his career, he wrote many books. He is best known for his movies, Von Ryan's Express, which a book that he wrote and then became a movie, Von Ryan's Express, which 20th Century Fox then made into a film starring Frank Sinatra, My Sweet Charlie, which later became a Broadway play and later a TV movie that won Patty Duke an Emmy. He served as a captain in the Air Force from 1941 to 45, spent 3 years as a prisoner of war in Italian and German prison camps. He remained in the Air Force Reserve, serving as a lieutenant colonel until he retired. He will be missed by many, and his loss is greatly mourned. He is survived by his wife of 60 years, Dodie, his two sons, Fred and wife Susan, Eric and wife Karen, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like us to adjourn in memory of George Richard Schwartz. He was born on December 6th in Santa Monica in 1936, and he died at his home with his family in Venice, California on November 1st, just now. He's survived by his wife of 43 years, Donna Karen Schwartz, whom he married in Santa Monica in 1963. He's survived by his son Mark and his son Andrew. His father, Dean Schwartz, co-owned the Mar Vista Lumber Company in Mar Vista. And after he had served in the Army, he came back and began his career at the Mar Vista Lumber. George was past president of the Lumber Association of Southern California, and he was a representative to the National Association as well. He loved traveling, boating, golf, and baseball. He began collecting antique fountain pens and was past president of the Southern California Pen Collection Club, which he organized the first international pen show in Los Angeles. George love of family, his integrity, and his humanity were extraordinary, and he lived and died with humor, grace, and dignity. In lieu of flowers, please consider a contribution to the Rotary Club on Manchester Avenue in Playa del Rey. May you rest in peace.
And colleagues ask that we adjourn in memory of Lois Eris Hotchkiss, the first female adult school principal in the Los Angeles Unified School District. She recently passed away. She began her career with the LA Unified School District in 1934, working as what was known then as an evening high school teacher. She returned to college and received her second credential, which enabled her to teach during the day. Mrs. Hotchkiss was promoted to principal in 1951 and served in that capacity at 8 adult schools in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. In addition, she was an instructor for many university-sponsored adult teacher preparation programs from 1960 to 1975. Mrs. Hotchkiss was best known for her work on behalf of women educators of Los Angeles. She served as a mentor to the small group of women who struggled to break the glass ceiling and become principals within the division in the late 60s and early 70s. In 1979, Lois Hotchkiss retired from LAUSD, but continued teaching at the Los Angeles Fashion Institute until just recently. She is included in a 1995 oral history of adult education, which is online as part of the California Adult Education Oral History Project. In the 1990s, Lois Hotchkiss was also featured in a KCBS TV segment on Outstanding Women of Los Angeles. She's survived by her niece, Claire Baum, a retired LAUSD teacher, Claire's husband, Bob, which are good friends of the family, by the way, who's also an educator, and the couple's 2 daughters, Christine and Carolyn. May Lois Hotchkiss rest in peace. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.